2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like I've got 8 different animal decks here to show you. Oh no, I forgot one. Okay. Hi, Sarah here from Tangy Tarot. I see I've got a few new faces from my last video, Tarot in Practice with the Creatures Tarot. So thank you, Katie Flowers, for shouting me out, and thank you for those who checked out the video and are here to see what comes next. I don't know what comes next either, so I guess we'll be finding out together. So actually, after I posted that video with the Creatures Tarot, it got me thinking about what other animal or creature-esque decks that I have in my collection. I have said in a few videos that I don't really connect with animal imagery or animal vibes, animal energy, animal decks. The reason being I don't really connect with animal symbolism. So I thought about, well, if I don't like a lot of animal decks out there, what animal decks do I like? Because here I've got 9 different animal decks that I would like to show you and talk about today. Hi, so I filmed this video on my own, but afterward I found out that there is a similar video or tag going around on YouTube with the same idea. So Heather Carter 82 made a video similar to this where they also said, even though they say they don't like animal decks, they also have like not just 3 or 5, but like 10 different animal decks as well. So I have the same video idea. So I just wanted to quickly shout them out and put their video in the description, etc., in case you're interested in other people on YouTube who have the same phenomenon of saying, I don't like animal decks, and yet we still have a handful of them. In this video, I wanted to talk about my animal decks, and in a following video, I wanted to share decks that don't feature any people or any faces in them, so stay tuned for that other video. So with that being said, let's look at some decks. Alright, so let's jump right into the first deck, the Creatures Tarot. I'm not going to go in any particular order here, I just wanted to bring this up because I just was playing with this past month. So this deck is by Sarah Kathleen. All the decks I'm going to show are bought with my own money. I don't get sent decks, I bought them. So this is Sarah Kathleen's website. This is the Creatures Tarot. And for those of you who saw my Creatures Tarot deep dive video, this may not be news to you, but if you haven't watched it, you may be seeing this for the first time here. So this Creatures Tarot, the premise of this deck is that all the figures in this deck are all different creatures. So there's not really particular animals or particular people, definitely no people in this deck. It's all creatures who are depicted via these silhouette looking things here. And I really, really enjoy reading with this deck because I really like the juxtaposition, the contrast of the shadows of the creatures versus their environment. I really like that the creatures themselves are just they're really simple and they're really easy for me to look at. The scenes themselves that are painted in these cards are also really easy for me to look at. Because the scenes feel very neutral to me, it feels easy for me to read, and I feel like I can just read and let the images soak in and just think about what this might mean metaphorically. What might this be relating to in my life? Because this doesn't feature any specific animals or especially people, I also feel like there's a lot of space for me to just explore these things. I feel like it's easy for me personally to read the potentially positive and potentially negative and potentially neutral meaning of this kind of reading. So I really, really enjoy the Creatures Tarot, not just because it has creatures, but also because of how these things are painted. I think the fact that it is creatures just adds to it because I do struggle with reading animal decks. I don't feel as much of a nature connection to animals that maybe other people do. So this is kind of my own version of like a really solid animal deck that works for me. So this is the Creatures Tarot. I really love the colors, I really love the silhouettes of the creatures, and I just really love the vibes of this deck. So the next deck that I want to feature is the Everybody's Tarot. This deck is also by Sarah Kathleen. I haven't gotten the chance to play too much with this yet, but at first glance, I do know that I really enjoy the deck. So these are the backs, these are the fronts. Similar to the Creatures Tarot, Sarah Kathleen's style is very bright and very vivid. So this deck also features certain creatures, and I just really, really like the colors. So here's one of the extra cards in the deck, Peace. I can see that this deck does feature occasionally like certain animals that we do recognize, like the lion and strength here. I think this flame on the tail is so cute. This deck is definitely a lot on the simpler side as far as general tarot decks go. Personally, I don't mind it because this would be my version of like an inner child or inner child-esque deck. I made a different video explaining all about the different reasons why I don't feel connected with an inner child or an inner child practice. This really resonates with my own idea of an inner child deck because it's just very simple. This feels like the way that I might draw things if I were asked to draw a deck. I will say, now that I see the Queen of Cups here, let me find some of the other queens. Okay, so I've pulled out some of the court cards. Here we see the Queen of Cups, here's the Queen of Swords, here's another queen, and here is another queen. So as you can see, the court cards thematically or the way they're framed are pretty similar. Even though they are different unicorns, it's pretty similar like framing. The queens are all facing right. I pulled out a couple of kings. Here's the King of Swords, King of Pentacles, so both this dragon type. We had the page earlier, Page of Swords, here's a Page of Cups. So the courts, there's not too much variety in like the composition in the court cards. If that's something that matters to you, I guess there I am pointing it out. Yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to play with this too much and use it, but the very few times I have pulled it out, even just to look through and glance through, I feel like this deck just puts me in a good mood because they're so cute. Look at these little faces. They're so cute. They're just adorable. They're my version of adorable, and they're just adorable. Yeah, I don't know what really else needs to be said about this deck, but it is just adorable. It is very easy on the eyes. I love the thick lines here. It's just a very easy and very readable deck. So I really, really enjoy this deck. I'm going to stop flipping through because I'm going to keep babbling the same thing over and over. So that is the Everybody's Tarot. So continuing on with the good mood animal or creature decks, let's go to the Affirmator's Tarot. This is another extremely fun, colorful kind of deck. It does come with a little guidebook, but I have it somewhere else right now because I'm using this deck as part of my year ahead spread, so I have the guidebook somewhere else so that I can reference it every month. Anyway, so this is a pretty big deck. This is how it compares to the other decks that I just showed. The card size is bigger. The cards are slightly thicker, which I did not expect actually. If you have smaller hands, you might kind of hate the feel of it. I personally really like the feel because I think my hands, granted, I don't have small hands, but the cards are extremely bendy and they're so easy to shuffle. So here are the cards. It is such an experience. I really, really like cards that are bigger. I think this is this and another deck, the Majestic Earth, are the only cards that I have that are like bigger than standard tarot size. But I really enjoy handling this deck because it just feels very majestic and feels very like, I don't know. I guess it kind of puts me in like a younger, more carefree kind of mindset because the cards are bigger. Imagine like, when you have like a little child and they're handling everything, it just makes everything look so big because their hands are so small. I think that's how I feel. I think when I'm handling this deck, I kind of feel a little bit about what it's like to be a child because I'm so used to being able to handle everything physically and metaphorically that having these cards be a little bit bigger and a little bit like more colorful and all this stuff, I don't know. I guess that's why I really like this deck. It just makes me feel a little bit like a child in a good way. So as you can see, the cards are extremely colorful and they're extremely fun to look at. What I really, really enjoy about tarot in this day and age is that there are so many options that are so colorful and so vibrant and so different from the typical like medieval or Renaissance looking white people of the Rider-Waite-Smith or like other similar like angel decks and other metaphysical and spiritual decks, the fact that this exists and this is classified as a tarot deck and this is available for people to use and learn with is so fun to me. And I'm so glad that I got the chance to pass by this deck in a Barnes & Noble and pick it up for myself. This deck is a lot of fun. And I love that the animals on these cards are also very, very expressive. You can see in the Page of Swords, we have this cat looking very determined and looking a little bit wily and just ready to learn something, in my opinion. And we have the koala here, obviously looking very like dejected. I like Oh my god, look at the facial expression, right? The Eight of Wands, this guy, this unicorn going, yeehaw, I'm ready. Page of Cups, a little cute little smile as they're getting ready to like do their paintings. It's just really cute. And gosh, this makes me feel so good. I am so happy that this deck exists and that I have the privilege of being able to use it and work with it and just enjoy looking at it whenever I feel down. So this is the Affirmator's Tarot. Isn't it beautiful? Okay, let's do another silly animal themed deck. We got the Weird Cat Tarot. This one, I bought the B grade version. I can't really remember what the B grade, what the defects were. I see that the box is a little bit torn, but besides that, I cannot remember what the, I don't know, what the defects were. So we can see that there is this beautiful hollow or iridescent, just shiny pink gilding. This is kind of a neon type deck. As you can see by this neon looking back, the colors are just very neon and a little bit wild, and I really like it. So this deck is on the simpler side as well. I would say this is more similar to the Everybody's Tarot in how simple it is. There's not as much symbolism and different scenery as there would be in other cards, similar to the Affirmator's Tarot. This one is a lot more simple. For example, the Four of Pentacles, like instead of the typical imagery where a person or a figure is holding onto their pentacles very tightly and there's a whole scene around them, this cat literally just has its 4 pentacles or 4 strawberries here. So this deck is a lot simpler, and I know that because of that, it is not for everybody. Honestly, I also don't use this deck as much as I wish I did, but at the same time, I also know that this is just a deck that's meant more for fun. It's just meant for fun. It's not meant for super deep readings or for like deep diving and exploration, because what would there be to deep dive in? The scenes are very straightforward. The cats are very straightforward. This is just kind of a good vibe, good mood, feel good kind of deck for me. I love the angel here, the angel cat here, the angel in the heaven, the cat in the heaven, having 3 eyes. It's just, I don't know, very cute. I love the cat eyes here. Speaking of cat eyes, the perfect card came up just showing all these different cats and their different eyes. I love the slight psychedelic neonness of these cards. I am kind of into this aesthetic recently. There's a couple of other decks that I am interested in with the like neon coloring, like the Eldritch Overlord, cyberpunk kind of theme, but that's another story. So the Weird Cat Tarot, I don't know what else I can say about this deck. I hope you're enjoying looking at the random colors and random cats as I am. What a cute Ace of Pentacles. If I was a beginner and I was looking at this card, I would have no idea what this Ace of Pentacles means. Honestly, even now, I don't really know what it means. I'm sure the guidebook has some stuff to say about it, but as an image, as a card, it's just very cute, you know? So that is the Weird Cat Tarot. Oh, what a cute little deck. I would flip through all these cards if I can, but, you know, I got more decks to go through. So, Weird Cat Tarot. Okay, on to another fun animal deck. We got the Tarot of Curious Creatures by Chris Ann. So this one also comes with a guidebook, which I also have on the side because this is another one of my year ahead spread decks. So I started edging this in a mahogany color and I stopped. So that's why there's some weird lines on here. These are the backs. I really like this purple color. It's very interesting to me. So be warned, this is a deck that features animal heads on human bodies. I watched the show BoJack Horseman some years back, and I was in love with the show. The show exemplifies a lot of the themes that are kind of present in this deck as well. What is really cool about this deck, if you've never seen this before, is that these animal heads, by being placed on human bodies, we get to see the body language of these humans. And the body language of the humans kind of illustrates the essence of the card, but also the meaning of the animal kind of comes through because, you know, it's like, why did you choose this iguana for this specific card? Why did you choose the dolphins for the Two of Cups and not like any other animal? So in that way, this is the closest I would get to like animal symbolism, because normally I don't really understand animal symbolism. I don't feel a certain connection with it. And to me, it just feels like a lot of memorizing of keywords and personalities when it comes to animal symbolism. So this is the closest that I can get to understanding and enjoying animal symbolism, because it's not just the animals like on a card kind of standing still. there's body language and humanistic characters for me to go off of. So this this is another really fun deck because I love the different colors that are featured in all of the different backgrounds. I love the different poses and the different I don't know, the different body language. I think I've said that a lot, but I really enjoy the different body language that is present through all of these cards. Yeah, it's just a cool deck. So, what else would I need to say about this? I once brought this to a Halloween party last year, and I brought this in a few other decks, and this was the most popular deck. It might have been a case of one person requesting it, and then everyone liked it so much that they were like, we gotta keep going with it. But everyone who got a reading really enjoyed this deck, and everyone who didn't get a reading but who are watching also really enjoyed this deck. So it's a fun time. If you're a fan of this deck, I would suggest checking out the show BoJack Horseman. I wouldn't say I would recommend it because it does deal with a lot of heavy topics, despite it being a show about animal heads on human bodies. It does delve into a lot of themes about like addiction and trauma and I can't think of other things right now, but it's some heavy stuff. So just be warned if you go in. But there is a lot of comedy in the show as well. I'm just saying that it also deals with these heavy themes. So I really enjoyed BoJack Horseman. I want to check out the other show, Tuca and Birdie, which also features like bird humans. So if you're into this kind of imagery, this kind of vibe, this kind of world, like check out BoJack Horseman and Tuca and Birdie and like those similar shows. So that is the Tarot of Curious Creatures. What a fun, vibrant deck, right? Okay, so speaking of decks that are a little bit odd, I want to show the Tarot of the Magical Forest. So this one is another interesting deck because as you can see from at least the title here, the cover here, all the animals have this kind of eye. These really big, slightly creepy looking eyes. I think that is just so charming though. This is slightly narrower than the standard tarot card size. Very, very slightly narrower. If you have small hands, you might enjoy this deck. So the color palette of this deck is a lot more muted than the color palettes of the other decks that I've shown so far. I really enjoy the quirkiness of this deck though, because when you compare it to some other decks, you know, I think some other decks are pretty standard. This one is just very quirky. The eyes are just one of the absolute funniest things to me because I don't know, man. They kind of look like googly eyes. They also look like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. Or just, it's just easy to project a lot of different emotions or ideas into these cards and into these eyes. Like, I don't know, this Page of Cups looking at the camera, looking at us being like, do you know what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't know what I'm doing here. That it just gives me that vibe. And this poor pig, like it's like knocked over, but it's like eyes are wide open. It just looks like a little petrified. And I don't know why I find that so funny. I think this kind of imagery, this kind of deck, this vibe is very helpful for me because it gives me a chance to like laugh at my situation and laugh at things that may be really hard. Something that I've noticed about myself when I talk to friends is that I have a tendency to laugh about or in uncomfortable situations. When my friend is complaining about like her parents, for example, and how like she and her mom have gotten like another argument, or how someone else is complaining about like some weird situation that they were in at the store or something, like I just can't help but laugh. It's not like a straight up like joyful laugh though. It's like oh my god, no. And I'm like grimacing. It's like a grimace laugh. But my reaction is just to laugh. And I have no idea why that is, honestly. Luckily, the friends that I have talked to, like none of them have ever brought up any concern over it. But this deck gives me that similar vibe where, you know, in the face of hardship, when we're talking about things that are like that may or may not be serious and may be like seriously affecting us, like I can't help but laugh and I can't help but like make some funny faces and make some like grimacing faces. Actually, I take it back a little bit. I don't think I would laugh at like genuinely tragic situations. It's just that, I don't know, man, my natural reaction is to grimace laugh. And I think it's because I partly know that the situation is not deadly serious enough that like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But this deck gives me that vibe of like grimace laughing, and it's fun. It's fun for me. It's enjoyable for me. It takes the edge off a little bit. So that is the Tarot of the Magical Forest. Now, going to another deck that isn't as creepy, hopefully, is the Mystical Cats Tarot. So I've got this in a drawstring bag, and I've etched this in purple for the fun of it. So this deck, first of all, this publisher is Llewellyn, and the cardstock is so slippery and so easy to shuffle. It is so smooth and so fun. So this deck is one of the only cat decks that I own. This one and the Weird Cat Tarot are the only cat decks that I own. I have tried a couple of different ones, but compared to those, I just like these two better. So the reason why this is my only cat deck so far is because the cats are very easy for me to understand. I have owned a cat for 2.5 years now. She's 3 years old, I think. And because I have her, I understand cat language and cat emotions and cat wants and needs a lot better. And what I really enjoy about this deck is that it feels like my cat or any cat. Like I could envision these cats in real life. These cats don't feel like they're anthropomorphized. It doesn't feel like a human imagined a cat would act like this. It feels like a human knows a cat would act like this. I don't know if that's the right way to explain it, but that's all I can come up with for now. It feels like these cats are acting very natural. Very natural. It doesn't feel forced. It feels natural to me. One thing I don't like about the deck is these aces. Not a fan. I think there could have been a better way to incorporate them, but that's my little gripe about this deck. But yeah, I really enjoy the colors of this deck. As you can see from all of my decks so far, I really am a big fan of color. I've ogled a couple of black and white decks or monochromatic decks, but overall in my collection, I'm still a fan of color. I really enjoy the different expressiveness of the cats and how the framing, the composition, the colors, everything about these cards just makes it very easy for me to imagine, and read into the card and read into the energy of the card. I can imagine what the cats might be trying to tell me. I can imagine the energy of the cat, and I can imagine the feelings that are trying to come through these cards. So, mystical cats, man. I love these cats. They make me feel so mystical. I mentioned this in another video, how this is one of my happiness cards. This is a card that represents pure joy for me. I also absolutely love the variety of cats here. We've got cats of all different colors and patterns. My favorite cat, my cat is a tuxedo cat. So I loved seeing the tuxedo cats here, the black and white tuxedo cats. Oh, my favorite. Yeah. So, Mystical Cats Tarot. That is one of my favorite cat decks. The next deck here is the Tarot Renard by Celia Melville. This is a deck that comes in French and English. So on the one side we've got English, on the other side we've got French. I took French in, when we had French classes from elementary school to middle school, and I took French in high school. So it is nice for me to practice my French when I try to read that book. I don't think my French is that great, but I enjoy trying to practice and trying to relearn and remember some of that French. So here's the backs. We've got a little bit of foiling on the back, which is very cool. So this deck has a lot more white space than the other decks so far. What I really, really love about this deck is the watercolor style. The watercolor, medium watercolor art. Oh my gosh, this is one of the most beautiful cards. I'm such a sucker for rainbows. One of my most favorite cards ever. So this is a deck that features all foxes, and sometimes the foxes act like humans or people like this, and sometimes they just act like foxes, which I find really adorable and very charming. As you can see from the other decks, this deck also features a lot of color, which is just my vibe, man. I just really, really like color. I really enjoy this deck for when I need a different kind of point of view, because these foxes, I like the orange color. The orange color of the foxes just evokes something in me. It evokes this idea of like, I don't know, kind of going your own way. This is a deck that I would love to get to know more. I would even like to do a tarot and practice like deep dive exploration of this deck. I've used this deck enough that I recognize a lot of the imagery without even having to read these little things at the bottom here. But still, I would love to use this deck even more. The colors are just beautiful and gorgeous. I love the greenery here contrasted with the blue, the yellow of the cups, and the orange of the fox. Because the foxes are orange, I believe it just adds a wonderful like dynamic to the colors and to the art here. It's just a beautiful, beautiful card. I mean, they're mostly orange, but some of them end up being like a little bit gray. This one's a black fox here. Yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful deck. I would highly recommend this deck to anybody who enjoys color and who enjoys the watercolor style and who wants to study. I feel like this is a good study deck as well, but yeah, that is the Tarot Renard. Another deck I want to show is the Way of the Panda Tarot. This is my own crochet pouch for it. This is the only one that I've made in this style so far. The other pouches I've made have all been in like this style, this drawstring style. And what can I say? The Way of the Panda just gets a special pouch because it's one of my favorite decks. So similar to the last deck, the Way of the Panda also has a very beautiful watercolor style. Every time I have this deck, I can't help but shuffle it, but I must resist the urge right now. So, like the last deck, a lot of white space here. And like the last deck, watercolor style and beautiful, vibrant colors. And just like the last deck, a lot of very expressive, I was going to say expressionful, but no, expressive pandas. This was my very first deck. I got this deck not knowing exactly what tarot was. I didn't think I would learn, but once I got this deck, I was like, I have to learn what tarot is because this system is so fascinating. The way that the pandas exemplify the cards is just so dynamic and so interesting to me. I love the different facial expressions, like this panda here, the different facial expressions, the different body language, the different scenes and images on the cards. It's just so, it speaks to me in a way that nothing has ever spoken to me before. I can't help but sigh and just feel calmed when I see this deck. And I'm sure a part of it is because I have worked with this deck for like 3 years or whatever at this point. You know, this is my first deck and I've worked with this like endlessly. I've done readings with this for so many people, for myself. It's just a beautiful, wonderful deck. And I feel like this is one of my favorite animal decks because I love the imagery or the connotation that Kim, the creator, weaves through the cards. How pandas, they can be a lot of things. They can be lazy, but they can also be hardworking. They can be sad, they can be happy, they can be carefree, and they can also be very caring. And I'm sure a lot of that is kind of our own human projections onto the animals, but I don't mind it because the way that they have been illustrated here is just, it's like, it's goals for me. What's a non-millennial way to say that? It's the way that I would love to live my life, the way that I would love to make space for myself, making space for the parts of me that are carefree and a little slothy and a little bit lazy, and also making space for the parts of me that want to work hard and to achieve and to make a name for myself, you know? So that is the Way of the Panda Tarot, one of my absolute favorite decks, and I can't gush about this enough. And the last deck, which is almost like a runner-up type of deck, even though this is not a competitive tag or anything. This is the Spacious Tarot. And why I say this is like a runner-up type of deck is because, all right, I'm gonna take these cards out. I just bought the expansion, so that's why there are a lot more cards than what I'm used to. I'm gonna put the expansion away. The Spacious Tarot is primarily a deck without any figures, without any animals. So those are some examples there. However, there are a very, very small amount of animals in this deck, which is why it slides in this last slot in my animal decks collection listicle here. So let's see, we found one animal in the Nine of Swords here. There's a mouse, but other animals probably can't find them. So that is the general vibe of how the cards look for those who have never seen the Spacious Tarot before. Let me show you where the animals are. The animals are all in the court cards. So the Pentacles suit, we have bears. The Swords suit, we have crows or ravens. I don't remember what it is. I apologize. In the Cup suit, we have these koi fish. And in the Wand suit, we have these salamanders. So that's why this deck slides in at the very last, the very last slot here of, it's barely an animal deck. But yeah, I don't think there are any other animals in this deck that I can recall. And just flipping through this now, I don't see any other animals. Okay, here's another animal, the Empress. There's a hawk there. There's a vulture there with the Five of Swords. There's a bee there, Eight of Pentacles. Okay, but besides that, now, okay, there's a wolf in the Five of Pentacles. So very, very small amount of animals. Animals are not the focus of this deck, but yeah, slides in at the end. I guess to comment a little bit about the Spacious Tarot as well. Again, as you can see from this deck and all the decks that I've shown, lots of color. I love the vibrance of this deck. I love the contrast, the vividness, the way that the scenes are depicted. Yeah, I find this deck just, it's very spacious, which as the name goes, obviously it's spacious because that's what the name says. But because it's spacious, it reminds me a lot of the Creatures Tarot here because it just feels like I can read this in a more like neutral way. Comparing like these two cards here with the spacious in the middle, like it's, I don't normally pair decks, but this would be an astounding like deck pairing here. So I can see the spaciousness here where there's just not too much going on, but there's still enough detail to like fill out the scene, fill out the card, and kind of convey what's relevant through the cards here. So yeah, I think a lot of things that I've said about the Creatures Tarot can also apply to the Spacious Tarot in about how spacious it is and how it allows me to read neutrally and all that stuff. So that is a quick look at the Spacious Tarot. So those were my 9+1 animal decks that I love and enjoy. I'm curious to hear if there were any that really stood out to you or that you really, really connected with. If you have any of these and what your experience with them has been. Or if you have your own favorite animal decks that you prefer. Now, in this video, I featured decks that have animals or creatures and no people. Now, in an upcoming video, I want to put together a list of my decks without people, without faces, and sometimes without even any actors, without anyone doing anything in the cards. So stay tuned for that list of like amorphous, figureless decks. So yeah, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Bye!